Hey guys, and welcome to TFH. Turbo's Fighter with me, your man Turbo. Listen, guys, because I've been ill and I can't do the fitness stuff, I've been obviously concentrating my channel on fitness and mental health as a former world champion fighter. I am very, very honored to introduce today to you guys a special guest. His name's John G Sutton. He's had an amazing life. He's worked for the armed forces. He's worked in the prison service. He's an author. He's a writer. He's a regular editor on several sidekick magazines and columns and stuff. And he's led an amazing life. So I am really honored, guys, to fetch this guy to you. John, thank you for coming on.
That's very nice of you to ask me, Tony. Thank you very much for introducing me to your friends.
No.
I'll be pleased to help talk about my experiences. I certainly will.
No, thank you ever so much, guys. The description below will have all John's links in for his books, his channels, everything. Please go and check him out if you've not already, guys. I know I asked you earlier on a video, but John, would you like to introduce yourself and tell everybody a bit about you?
I certainly will. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me this evening, and I'm going to tell people a little bit about my life. I mean, to start off with, let me start off with how I got into the military, which is in the early 60s. I was working in the cotton mills in Lancashire when Lancashire was famous for weaving and sewing and spinning, and I was a weaver, and I worked at shifts in the mills, and I found it to be extremely onerous. There may be people out there who've experienced it. It was extremely noisy. I was working in the mills, and I thought, this industry is going nowhere, and I am going to get out of here. So I applied to join the military. And in May of 1968, when I was 18 years old, I joined the Royal Artillery and commenced training at a place called Oswestry on the borders of Wales. And from there, I was posted to the Parachute Regiment, where I did P Company with the Para Brigade, the Parachute Brigade. And I don't know, people may be interested in that kind of special forces carry on. I did all that. And at the end of it, believe this or not, I got involved in a fight with the two people who introduced themselves to me as potential officers. They said, well, you will do this. I said, I'm not.
Army officers.
They called themselves potential army officers. They were serving in the military.
Right.
And I said, I don't recognize that rank. You know, as far as I'm concerned, you're the same rank as me, potential anything, you know. So whatever it is you want, take your hook and sling it, you know. And they became quite aggressive.
Definitely.
So unknown to me, they were connected to the officer in command of the Parachute Regiment, who wasn't very pleased with my treating his potential officers in a certain disrespectful manner, and they fired me off. Anyway, I was better off out of that. Look what happened to them. But I did all the parachute training.
Well, so they just fired you?
The colonel called me in and said, there's been certain reports about your behaviour. Now, I always thought, you know, Special Forces, Parachute Brigade, you're supposed to be a bit aggressive, you know. So if somebody gets you the wrong way, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to tell them. So I did. They didn't like it.
Exactly.
Anyway, you got a question you asked me? Yeah, I'm a happy guy.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, my uncle, he worked with two para, and he was saying he went for Special Forces with the SAS. He actually bought himself out because of what happened to a friend of his in Ireland. But obviously, you've got your principles, you've got your morals, and that's something I've noticed about you, John, which is a lot of people haven't got that nowadays. And with the Parachute Regiment, when they did that to you, did that affect you in any way? Them telling you, like, boom, off, or anything?
It made me quite angry, actually. I thought, if that's the way that they're going to treat people, then I'm better off out of this. So I just accepted it and went on with my time in the military. Because don't forget, going back in the 1960s, when you signed on in the military, it was a contract that you couldn't break. You tried to break that, you ended up in prison. It was an unbreakable contract. So I was then sent to Germany, where I served with a thing called 39 Missile Regiment. And very quickly, I joined the Army boxing team in 39 Missile Regiment, and I became the regimental boxing champion, and went on to represent the...
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed that. I ended up being trained by
That's my sort of thing.
It's
fighting's my sort of thing. So yeah, massive congratulations for that, because in the army and the paras, and you've got a lot of good competition. You guys have all been trained the same, so it's a big achievement, that, guys.
I thought it was a good achievement. I enjoyed it. You see, in the military, they're all fit young men, aren't they? Relatively fit. They're all got to be fit to be in the military. And I was boxing at middleweight, so that's the most people are around about 11, 12 stone, and that's what I was boxing at. I was trained by a guy called Gil Neal, who was at the time the Olympic coach for the Olympic boxing team. And Gil Neal and one of his colleagues said they watched me box. I boxed a number of times for them, and they said your style, which was very much like Mike Tyson and Joe Frazier, just walk straight through it, and hit them as hard as you possibly could. I mean, when I could hit, I could actually lift people off the floor. I was really able to do this, lift people off the floor, Not many people can do that, but I've done it. I mean, I don't know if you saw George Foreman when he fought Joe Frazier. He hit Frazier so hard.
I have seen.
You see that? And Frazier lifted off the floor. I could do that. And the guy who was training the Olympic team said, the way you're fighting, he said, the way you're boxing, it's not good for the amateurs, because I just let them hit me because it didn't bother me at all. I didn't care. I was just going to go in and take them out with one. But they said that won't help. If you're going in and let them hit you, they're scoring points. I said it doesn't matter. It's just like bouncing off me. It doesn't hurt me. All I want to do is put one on them.
In the amateurs, it matters.
In the amateurs, it matters. That's what they said. They said it definitely matters, and you won't. If it goes the distance, you're going to lose. And eventually, I think it was the regional. I think it was BAOR finals or something. I lost on points, and my wife, who'd been watching this because I got married in the meantime, said, "No more of this. You're not doing it. It's just too aggressive." So she didn't like me doing it, so I stopped. But whilst
I had the same problem with fighting. I was a professional fighter. Like I say, I was a European and world champion kickboxer. My ex-partner, should I say, she really didn't like the training I had to do. She didn't like me getting hurt, and it did lead to having to choose fighting or her. Unfortunately, I picked fighting. But, sorry, John.
I picked the other one. I stuck with my wife, but I never did kickboxing or anything like that. I
probably should have done that.
I never did kickboxing. I did a lot of straight fighting, but I used to do a lot of street fighting as well. Because in the army, there's a lot of punch-ups. You get involved in punch-ups, which I particularly enjoyed. I was good at them. I must admit, these days you get locked up. But back in the
60s, weren't it?
Back in the 60s, people, you go out for a night out, you think nothing about having, at the end of it, 8 or 9 pints and then a punch up outside the boozer. It was good. I used to really enjoy that. My wife didn't, she said, oh my God, not again. Of course, you can't do that.
Bless.
You can't do that these days. So anyway,
Oh, of course.
I managed to quite quickly get myself promoted in the military, and I was promoted to corporal. Well, I was a bombardier in actual fact. And I didn't see this in me, but they put me in charge of the jail, the glass house, the regimental
The
lockup.
prison, the army jail.
Yeah.
Wow.
The regimental jail. I was in charge. I was they call it the Provo Corporal or the Provo NCO. So I ran that for about 6 months, and quite successfully. But I always thought when I was doing that job that the people who were in the prison, they're just soldiers, just young men like me. So I always used to say to them, listen, this is a very brief episode in your life. What you're experiencing here will soon just be a memory. So don't let this get into your head. Don't let it get into your head. While you're here, I am going to play the part of the prison guard, and you're going to play the part of the prisoner. I said, and at the end of the day, we'll have a cup of tea and a bit of a laugh. You'll go to bed. Next day, back into the routine. I said, it's a joke. It cannot be taken too seriously, this. So they can't went along with that.
That's it, John.
Never had any problem with it.
That just shows from the early 60s when you was in the army and you started to work at the prison service for the army, how mentally strong you was. And for you to have that mentality of saying that to a prisoner, I bet he respected you for that. And I bet he got you a lot more respect on like the landings or the wings, whatever it was, during the army prison. It's little things like that, guys. If you're mentally strong, this guy is really, really mentally strong, and he's definitely seen and experienced a hell of a lot.
So
sorry, John. I just want to try and break things down.
That's all right. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I never had any problem with prisoners in the military, or any prisoners anyway. But I always used to just say to them, it's a short space of time. Just switch off. You'll soon be out of here, and this is just a memory. And as long as you're in here, you're perfectly safe, because I won't let any harm come to you, and nobody will bully you while I'm here. So that was it. You see, they were all right. They were safe, and I never had any problem. I never had any problem.
Exactly.
I never thought anything about being a jailer. I just did it.
That's it. I mean, how long was you in the army for? And did you leave the army to go straight into the prison system? Were you like transition from guarding the army prisoners to the jail service?
No, I did 5 years in the army. I should have done 6, but I bought myself out because my father became terminally ill, and somebody had to help look after the family, because I had a younger brother and a sister, and my mother needed help. So I purchased my discharge, and I left the military in 1973 and went to live in a place called Lee in Lancashire. And I got a job as the head of security for a company that had, I think they had about 8 or 9 big shops, and they were selling do-it-yourself goods. And I used to go around the country making sure that the shops were secure, and that mainly the problem was that they were employing people who were robbing them, So it was my job to make sure they weren't robbing them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Obviously, you did your 5 years in the army. You did your security thing. When so I'm getting a lot of questions, obviously, about your prison service, because I think that's where you've seen a lot more extreme stuff, experienced a lot more. When was it that you joined the prison system, and how long for, and what prisons did you work, sort of thing, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I joined the prison service in January 1975. I applied to join the prison service in 1974. And before I joined the prison service, I was working on the doors in the nightclubs in Manchester as they call it a bouncer, you know. So I did that for about...
Back in them days, it was somebody that could fight.
Yeah, I mean, you went in, you expected that you were going to be throwing people out. See, listen, I'll tell you something. My experience of doing the doors and all that is that 99% of the people who want to cause trouble haven't got the first clue about what to do, how to fight. No chance. They want to cause trouble.
I agree 1,000,000%.
But listen, as soon as you put something on them, that's it. They absolutely want to run away. I mean, the thing is with me, if it's going to be trouble, then it ain't going to stop until you're down, you know. I ain't going to stop. If you really want to hurt me, then you're going to have to do something serious. It isn't playing a game. So if as soon as I say, you better stop or you're going to get hurt, I'm not joking. I used to be the personal bodyguard for Angelo Dundee, the manager of Muhammad Ali, and I was his personal bodyguard.
Wow. Guys, like you said, I was going to explain who he was, but he's just explained Muhammad Ali's trainer. This guy, I told you, amazing. He was his bodyguard. A quick question for you, John. Jamie McDonald says, was you working in the prison system at Strange Ways in the 1990s?
No, I left.
No.
I left the prison service in 1985. I joined in January 1975 at Strange Ways. And from Strange Ways, when you're recruited there, you do a training program in Strange Ways. And then, assuming that you pass that, you get sent to the prison staff training school, which was just outside Bristol.
And how long were the training?
The training was 3 months, 12 weeks. And throughout the training course, you did a series of examinations. Every week you did a series of lectures, and at the end of the week you did a written examination. And if you didn't pass the written examination, then that was the end of that. You didn't go any further. So we got to week 10, in the 12-week course, and all the way through, believe this or not, I had got 100% score all the way through. So I never considered myself to be an academic, although I'd passed all the exams in the army and quickly got promoted. But when I was taking the exams in the prison service, I absolutely astounded myself by getting 100% all the way through.
Congratulations. That's an achievement on itself.
It was.
I know back in them days, it were a lot harder. Sorry, it was a lot harder then, back when you joined the prison system, to what it is now, because from what I understand, the prison system now will take anybody because you have such a big turnover of staff. Because as you know how hard it is, John.
No, listen, back in 1975, when I joined the prison service, a prison officer was on a higher salary scale than a police officer. It was a better paid position. And it was considered to be a real career. You weren't just a turnkey. There were many other different aspects to the job. You were liaising with the prison service probation department. You were actually rehabilitating inmates to get back into society. That was the job I joined. When I got in there, I found that what they wanted me to do was, in effect, lock people in, 3 to a cell, and abuse their human rights. So I kind of didn't agree with that.
Definitely. And on that point, John, when they were telling you to do things that you mentally knew was wrong and didn't agree with, how did that play on your mind? And how did you respond to it, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, they picked the wrong guy to tell me to do things that I wouldn't do, because I just basically wouldn't do them. And not only would I not do them, I would prevent or do my best to prevent other people from doing them. And I made a series of complaints. I mean, the problem was that the staff seemed to be, seriously, they just didn't see that what they were doing was an abuse. They couldn't see it. And I tried to explain to them, listen, locking 3 grown men into a cell without any sanitation, leaving them locked up for 12, 14 hours without opening the door is an abuse. We mustn't do this. And I said to them then, I said, listen, if you provoke a dog long enough, it'll bite you. I said, and what you're doing here is you're provoking men, and eventually they are going to turn. And look what happened at Strangeways. They blew the roof off.
Definitely, that riot was mind-blowing. So, what prisons did you work at between 75 and 85?
1975 to 1985. I started off at Strangeways training, then I went to the school and I was posted to Wormwood Scrubs. Wormwood Scrubs at the time was the biggest prison in Europe. And I was appointed to work on C2 landing in Wormwood Scrubs, which was the biggest landing in Europe. In the biggest landing, it had over 200 inmates on one landing. You've got jails in this country that have less than 200 inmates. But we had 200 inmates, and there were 5 staff. 4 staff were unlocking and locking up, and 1 member of staff was taking the applications and handing the mail out. And basically, it was very much a human warehouse. You were get them into the cells, get them out the cells, get them fed, get them locked up. And there were some strange characters on C2 wing, because we also held at the Scrubs what's known as Category A prisoners. Those are considered by the system to be the most dangerous prisoners in the system, Category A prisoners. And there was one Category A prisoner who came onto the landing whilst I was there. His name was Peter Cook. Now, you probably won't know the name of Peter Cook, but he was also known by another name. He was known by the name of the Cambridge Rapist. And he used to he raped about 16, maybe 20 women in Cambridge, came around Cambridge University, and he used to wear a leather mask over his face with a zip across. And he was notorious for this. I mean, the scared women was terrified. And he was on C2 landing. And one day...
Go on. No, I was going to say, listen, guys, John's recently done Tales from the Jails on his channel, guys. The link is in the description. Go and check it out. That story's just told about the Camden Rapist. He's got that on there, and it's an amazing story. And obviously, he's looked after and gained respect from a lot of people. So please go and check him out, guys. Sorry, John. I just wanted to let him know about your channel a bit more.
Yeah, that's very kind of you, yeah. The Tales from the Jails on YouTube. It's on my channel, Psychic World. Anyway, the Cambridge Rapist decided that he didn't want to be a man anymore. He wanted to be a woman. And he got himself a bedsheet, painted it like a skirt. And I opened his cell one afternoon, and he jumped out, dressed as a woman, screaming, "Mr. Sutton, I want to kiss you, Mr. Sutton. I love you, Mr. Sutton," and trying to kiss me. I mean, I could have been another victim of the Cambridge Rapist. I could have been, except he met the front door.
Definitely.
Head first into the front door of his cell, and then he went back in and had a rest. What are you going to do, eh? I mean,
Kindly
what would you do?
Exactly what you did, my friend. Escorted him kindly in. So, one of the questions I've got for you, John.
Go on.
Yeah, definitely. One of the main questions I've been asked, a few people have asked me to ask you this. So, in them 10 years in the prison system, what was the experience that affected you most mentally, and how did it affect you? And how did you learn to get out of that and cope with that sort?
The problem I had was I was up against a system that was based very much, now listen to what John's saying here, very much on the military system. And it was a case of the prison officers were like the non-commissioned officers in the army, and the inmates were the privates, the private soldiers, yeah? Except the governor grades were considered to be like the officers, and the chief officers and senior officers, principal officers, they were like the sergeants and the sergeant majors. And these people were actually trying to enforce a system of discipline that exited the United Kingdom with the end of national service. Because when national service ended in, I think it was 1963, 64, when that ended, the idea that the jails could continue to operate on a kind of militaristic basis disappeared. And you couldn't give prisoners who had never experienced a direct order in their lives, you couldn't give them direct orders because they didn't know how to react. I mean, I would say to prisoners, go get behind your door, go get in your cell, you know, and they say, who the hell are you talking to? You know, I understood that, but the prison system did not understand that. And explaining to senior officers and principal officers and the governors that what they were doing was provoking people who did not understand what they were being told to do. They didn't understand how to react.
Yeah.
They had come through society without ever being touched by the hard regime of the military. And therefore, when they got into prison, there was a direct conflict because they didn't understand that when a prison officer tells you what to do, you've got to do it. They still thought they could get away with giving direct orders. And in actual fact, the way to do it was to actually say to somebody, listen, you've got to get in your cell, get in there, you've got to get fed, you've got to spend the night, do your time and get out. This is a waste of time here. You know, don't mess about. And if you do that, then I will help you get through the system and I'll make sure that you're all right. I actually got people into art classes, into developmental classes with their English and the mathematics, you know, help people to actually access the education system. But
and develop themselves. I mean, that's one thing about you, John. You've passed on your mental strength and knowing right from wrong, and you're being true to yourself, and that is obviously reacted to the prisoners, and they've obviously respected that. So you've got them cooperating with you. Is there any specific time where you've had a major incident that scared you, or anything that you thought that's after that's really dangerous that like you actually think that after because you're mentally strong?
You're mentally strong. When I was at Wormwood Scrubs, there was a group of inmates came in straight from court. That's what it was, the Scrubs. They came straight from court into the Scrubs, onto Sea Wing, and there was 4 men who were gypsies, travellers, and they came in and they were serving life sentences. And what they'd done was they'd been setting people on fire and they murdered a few people. But these were just basically young men who had been following the instructions of their seniors, you know, go and do this. So they've been doing this as like following direct orders.
Yeah.
So I was speaking to these gypsies, and I said, listen, why don't you, while you're in here, use your time to actually prepare yourself for society, and I'll help you to learn how to read and write, because they couldn't read and write. Well, yeah, they wanted to have a go. I said, and in return, I said, I'll teach you how to read and write, and you can teach me how to speak your language, because they don't speak English. They speak traveller Oh, it's a strange language.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It
they
is a
don't speak
language
that.
on its own.
It's a language on it, and it's a secret language. You as a member of the establishment, I'm not allowed to know it. So anyway, I spent weeks and weeks working with these 4 young men, trying to teach them how to read. And I got books. I worked with the education department, and they were really starting to come along. And I was on C2 landing, and this great big guy come to me, and he said, I want a word with you. I said, yeah, all right. What's the problem? He said, these men, he said, you will not teach them to read. It's not allowed. He was the head of the gypsies in the Scrubs. He says, no, you just stop. Yeah. He said, I don't want to see you anywhere near them again. Leave them alone. They're gypsies, and that's it. So I was not allowed, or no member of the education department was allowed to help them again. But I did learn some traveller off them. I learned things like Chevy on your jigger, Festa Jellin Mudderag, which means get behind your door, friend. The boss is coming and he's a bad bastard.
Yeah. So
if I ever came across
jails, no, go on. Sorry, John. I don't want to.
If I ever came across a gypsy again, which I often did inside Strangeways, I would always say to them, "Chevy on your jigger, please get behind your door, friend."
Definitely get behind your door.
Yeah.
So, John, which jails, apart from obviously you've worked at Wormwood, Scrubs, and you've worked at Strangeways, is there any other prisons in that 10 years that you've worked at?
Yeah, I trained for a while at Walton Jail at Liverpool, which I have to tell you, I mean, I've been around the prison system. Obviously, I've been in all the big jails, working as on secondment or taking other prisoners to different jails. But I must say, Walton Jail at Liverpool was the filthiest, horrible, dirty pit that I've ever been in. There was food scattered all over the floor. The cells were absolutely filthy and unkempt. Now, this is down to the staff, and it's down to the people who live there. I mean, they're going to live in those conditions, but not only have the inmates got to live in those conditions, the staff have got to work in those conditions.
And I mean, most people here, you work a normal job, you live a normal life, everyone in the chat. So can you imagine working 10, 12 hours in a place that is literally stinking? There's food everywhere. It's so unhealthy, unhygienic. How that must play, obviously, on yours and the prisoners' minds, and what frustration the prisoners must have. And the only person they can take it out on is the staff, like yourself.
Take it out on the staff, or take it out on people who are less able. I mean, don't forget, in the prisons, you've got people that are called, it's a colloquial term, they call them nonces. That's sex offenders, They call them nonces. And for some, there's a pecking order, you see, in the prison, just like there is anywhere else. But the pecking order is, at the top of the pecking order, you've got your seriously aggressive armed robbers and your violent gangsters. And you've got all them at the top of the pecking order. And right at the bottom of the pecking order, you've got the sex offenders. And the people in the middle think that they're making a name for themselves by attacking or injuring, if they possibly can, sex offenders. Now, my experience of sex offenders is that they are mentally ill. They are not thinking straight. I mean, if you consider that you can get sexual gratification by abusing a 3 or 4 year old child, then it isn't something that you're thinking straight. You're mentally ill and you need medical treatment.
Definitely.
You don't need to be kicked up and down the landing. You don't need to be kicked up and down the landing. That's not going to help you. And I'll tell you something else. When I was at Strangeways, I don't know what it is about me, but maybe it's because I look a little bit aggressive. But I used to get inmates coming up to me and saying things like, "I've been a very bad man, Mr. Sutton. Will you punish me?" I said, what do you want? Yeah, just give me a beating, you know.
I've heard that before.
Oh, no, thank you, not me, mate. Yeah, seriously.
Definitely.
You wanted me to beat them up. Imagine that. I mean,
wow. So, John, what was your scariest experience in prison? I know you've been through many, but the one that really you remember most that you've obviously had to deal with afterwards as well, because every major incident has a knock-on effect, doesn't it?
Well, I'll tell you this. I was working in Wormwood Scrubs on D Wing, which is the lifers wing in the prison, and I was on nights. And when you're on nights at the Scrubs, there's only one prison officer per wing. In D Wing, there was probably about 300, maybe 400 inmates scattered over 4 wings, you know. They all one to a cell, you know, they're not twoed up on D Wing. And but you're in there, you're on your own. And it got to be about midnight, maybe midnight. And I heard this bell ringing, you know, somebody was pressing their bell, you know, for attention, you know, like an alarm bell. So I was on the one, and I went up, and there was at the top of the 4s, right at the top of the 4th landing, right at the end cell. And I went to the cell, and he had and Judas, you know, the little hatch you look through, yeah. So I looked through there. I said, I said to them, "What is the problem? What's up?" He said, "There's a woman on my bed, a woman sitting on my bed." I said, "No, there isn't." I said, "I'm looking through it here, and I can see your bed. There is nobody in your cell but you." I said, "And there's no women here. This is an all-male prison. There's definitely no women here." He said, "There's been a woman sat on my bed." And I spent about half an hour calming him down, talking to him. And eventually he said, "Okay, I'll get back in bed." He said, "As long as I know that you're there." I said, "I'm here. If you need it again, just press the bell." And as I was going off the landing, I felt as if there was somebody walking alongside me. And I'm a very sensitive man, you know. I mean, I might look a bit rough about the range, but I am a sensitive individual.
No, you have got a special gift as well, haven't you?
Well,
you are a psychic as well, guys.
I will talk about that in a bit. But anyway, I felt this presence, and I tried to ensure that it didn't get to me. But I was absolutely scared about this. And the following, I wrote it into the incident book, because as the officer in charge, you have an incident book, you write it down. So I wrote it down. And the principal officer came round in the morning, collect the box, and he said, "What's this nonsense?" I said, "Well, the guy said there was somebody on his bed, a lady on his bed," and I explained to him that it couldn't possibly be. He said, "What cell was this?" I said, "It was D428 or something like that, right at the end of the wing." He said, "I'll tell you something." He said, "This wing used to be the female wing before World War II. All the female staff were held, all the female prisoners were held here." He said, "And in that cell, it's recorded that the occupant, they had babies with them, you see, and they took the baby off the occupant, that woman who was in the cell. And as a result of that, it affected her mind, and she threw herself off the top of the landing and landed on the floor below and killed herself." He said, "So I wonder if it's the spirit that's following me around." Yeah. So that was one of the most terrifying things that I experienced.
What floor? What floor did that lady chuck herself off? Do you know, John?
Yeah, the 4th. There's 4 landings, you see. One is the ground floor. 2, 3, 4, yeah. All joined together by stainless steel or staircases, yeah. Anybody who's seen a prison, you'll recognize it, yeah. But the guy who was in that cell, yeah.
that was your scariest experience. And obviously,
I mean,
like you said,
I've not been scared about prisoners. Prisoners are vulnerable people because they're in there, they're disempowered. Yeah, they might pretend to be tough, but they're disempowered because if they push it too far, it may very well be that it's not enough for me to deal with them. But believe me, I've seen a lot, but I've never seen anybody win. Never.
you can't beat the system.
You can't win because they will get enough men, don't matter how many men it takes, and they will absolutely deal with you. There was one guy in Strange Ways who fought for the heavyweight championship of Great Britain against John L. Sullivan. John L. Gardner, yeah? And he fought against it, and he was in Strange Ways for violence. And he was about 6'4", and he was an extremely dangerous man, and he had beaten staff in the past. And he started to kick off one day, and by that time I had retrained as a hospital officer. So they sent for me, and I had to go along with a syringe full of Largactil, and they had about 4 guys hold him down while I injected him. Yeah.
For those guys that don't know what Largactil is, I might have got it wrong. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, John, it's a liquid kosh.
They call it,
which literally, you can explain better what it does.
Colloquially termed the liquid kosh.
I mean, how does, when you inject a prisoner with that?
Yeah.
Sorry, John, seems to be having...
You inject them in the upper outer quadrant of their backside. You know, you look at the backside, yeah, the right cheek, yeah, and you imagine that there's a cross in the middle of it, and it's the upper outer quadrant, yeah, and you inject it into there.
Yep.
And believe me, within about a minute, it has a complete effect, and they're out, yeah. And that what's followed then is the team pick the inmates up, take him to the padded cells in the hospital, remove all the prisoner's clothing and place him into the padded cells. And that's where he wakes up 2 days later, completely confused, doesn't know where he is. I mean, but they have to be extremely violent to do that. I mean, and I would only do it at the specific instructions of a medical officer, a doctor.
Yeah. John, I know you said we can only do an hour. I would love to continue this. Can we continue this on Tuesday for the guys? Because I've got loads of people emailing me questions for you. And on Tuesday, if we could do it at the same time for an hour again, that would be amazing to finish off your story. But if you could just answer one more question before you go as well, that'd be amazing.
Go on, hit me with your rhythm stick.
Right. The question's from Jamie. Prison has been used to house most murderers, Ian Brady, Yorkshire Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe, and even George Blake. A Brits who turned MI6 agents into the KGB. I don't know if that's a statement or a question, actually, reading it. Sorry. I do apologize. To Sugar, what's happening? Oh dear. This is a question. I apologize, John.
Well,
okay, would you please present us on for an hour to finish this amazing story of yours?
Yeah, go on then. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah.
Thank you. I've got a lot of people asking me to have you back on, so really thank you. But basically what they said is another question I've had. On that experience as a sidekick, did you feel that woman after you left the jail ever again?
No, I mean, I protect myself. Let me tell you that. What I do is at night, if I feel that I've been in contact with any discarnate entities, I wrap myself in white. I imagine I'm encased in a white sheet completely, and I zip that completely up, and I'm protected then. And don't forget, I have spirit guides that work with me. But I'll tell you something, a very strange incident happened to me in Strange Ways. And it was on I Wing at Strange Ways, and I was the officer in charge of the clinical unit there, because we had like a hospital unit. And anybody who's been in Strange Ways in the 70s will remember it as being the young offenders and the Borstal unit, yeah, where people went before they were sent off to the Borstals, yeah. So anybody who's been there, K Wing, H Wing, I Wing, yeah. Nice to see you guys. Anyway, seriously, I got this banging on a door. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Everybody's gone for lunch. And I went up. And as I was going up, I saw this like a black shape moving along the landing. It was like a shadow moving along the landing. And this inmate was banging on his cell door. So I opened the door and said to him, "Come on, what are you playing at?" He said, "This woman's been in my cell. The woman's been in my cell." I said, "What woman's been in your cell?" He said, "She's about 5 foot tall and she's wearing all black and she's been telling me about this murder and she's going to be hung." And I said, "Oh, don't worry about that. There's absolutely nobody here. There's only me and you at the moment. You know, there's everybody else is locked up. You'll be all right. Get back to your bed." Anyway, I reported this, you know, and they said, "Oh," he said, "well, that's been seen before." There was a lady called Mrs. Merrifield, and she was the notorious poisoner from Blackpool, and she'd been held on I Wing in that very cell, and she was executed, hung at Strange Ways prison, and she's still haunting it. Believe me, I saw her. Wow. The inmate in the cell saw her.
That's such an amazing thing. Guys, please show your respect for John. Mr. Sutton, he's given up an hour of his time tonight. He's agreed to come back on Tuesday at the same time, guys. You guys are updating me and bombarding me with questions for him, because you all know he's an amazing guy. So what I'm going to do on Tuesday, I'm going to let him finish his story. I am going to get the questions from you guys all ready for him. And I'm going to let him tell you everything about him. I'm going to let you guys ask the questions, because obviously we're dealing with mental health. This guy, he deserves so much love and respect. His mentality is so strong, and he's shown that all the way through his life. Please go and check him out, guys. Jamie, top man. Click on that link that Jamie's just put in the chat. Takes you straight to his channel. Go and check him out. Top man. Make sure you give him a thumbs up. Any of his books, Psychic Pets, is that your bestseller, John?
Yeah, I wrote a book called Psychic Pets for Bloomsbury in 1996, and it was published in January 97. In fact, when I went to Bloomsbury, I was introduced to the managing editor called Barry Cunningham, and Barry showed me around the offices, you know. And this is God's honest truth. He said, "I want to show you something here." And he took me into what looked like a broom cupboard, you know, but it was quite big. And he opened the door, and it was filled from floor to ceiling with brown paper envelopes. He said, "What do you think that is?" I said, "You tell me." He said, "Those are the manuscripts that people send in to us to be published." He said, "The fact that you are here today indicates that you have taken one step beyond that." He said, "And I want to introduce you now to some of the other writers." And then he introduced me to a writer that I'm sure that your audience will recognize. Her name is J.K. Rowling. And she was in the same...
This guy, this John has literally had the honor to work and be recognized by J.K. Rowling with the same company. Guys, check him out, man. Sorry, John.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I was sat down next to J.K. Rowling, and we were discussing our books. And I was commissioned to write Psychic Pets, and she was commissioned to write the first Harry Potter book. And she was a very ordinary lady at the time, you know. She didn't look like she does now. she was rather a little more meat on the bones, But she was a nice lady, And when my book came out, Psychic Pets, I was invited to go to London to appear on This Morning with Richard and Judy, and I got the call on the morning. It was early in January 1997, and they said, "Can you get yourself to London immediately? You're on This Morning tomorrow. Get there." I said, "Yeah, I can go." I said, "How come this?" She said, "Well, Engelbert Humperdinck is scheduled to be on tomorrow. He can't get a plane from Los Angeles, so you got the spot. Can you be there?" So I went up and I got Engelbert Humperdinck's spot, and I was on for 25-30 minutes live on national television with Richard and Judy, and that pushed my book right up the charts, and it was the number one children's book. Yeah.
Wow. Just before you go, John, please give these guys, so they can check you out on Amazon or wherever, give them a couple of your titles of your books. Let them know what you've got out. We have been plugging your channel all night. And like I said, guys, everything to do with John will be in the description below. Just listen to him, guys, and we look forward to having him again on Tuesday. Definitely. Sorry, John.
All right. Well, listen, if you are interested in what happened in my early days as a jailer, there's a book out there that I've recently written called Psychic Screw, and that's published on Amazon. And if you're interested in how I came to that point, my early time with the military and the punch-ups and all the rest of it, the book is the volume 1 in my autobiography. It's called Screwed Up, because believe me, what I went through as a child really did screw it up. Oh, they tried to.
Definitely. And that's why we love having you on, John, because they've tried to screw you up, and your mentality is so strong. It's amazing, to be honest. But like I said, guys, a massive shout out to John. He's got so much, and he's been interviewed by some of the top people all across the world. I'm honoured just to do tonight. And I'm honoured.
That's an ordinary bloke. I mean, one of the top interviews I did was for Walt Disney. I got a call from my agent, because I had an agent, a literary agent, not a PR agent or anything like that, a literary agent to get my books published. And she called me one day, said, "Walt Disney want you to go to America. Will you?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely, we'll go. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I'm on my way." Yeah. So
definitely.
I flew over to.
I mean, John, you play it down, but that's a massive achievement. Walt Disney in America.
That was big news.
How many people can say that, guys?
When I got there, they met me off the plane, and they had a limousine and a bodyguard and a driver, and I'm sat in the back of this great big limousine, and they take me to a thing called the Yacht Club in where was it? Orlando, a great big hotel. And I was sat in the back of the limousine, and I said to the bodyguard, I said, "Have you had anybody else famous in the back of this car?" I was only joking, I was just having a laugh. And he said, "Well, where you're sitting now," he said, "the week before, the Secretary of State for the United States was sat there, and his name was Colin Powell." Of course, we're going back to 1998, but Colin Powell was like the head of all the military in the USA, and I was getting the same treatment as Colin Powell. So, folks, that is as good as it gets.
That is definitely as good as it gets. Right, John, I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to have another hour with you on Tuesday. Thank you very much at 6 o'clock. Please wait there, John. I will be backstage in a second. But guys, thank you so much, guys. Jamie's been plugging John's channel. All his links that he sent me are in the description below. As soon as this uploads onto YouTube, everything will be there, guys. Please show him as much love and respect as you do to me every single time. He's a top man with the top power and life experience. So thank you, guys. I will see you very, very soon.